This time, let's keep ourselves grounded in reality. Can you beat Super Mario 64 DS without jumping? Hey there guys, and welcome to the Reptile Rumble! First of all, I'd like to thank you guys for 8,000 subscribers, and for continuing to stick with me this long. This video took way longer to make than I wanted it to, but hopefully it's still worth the wait. Anyway, Nintendo has a long history of remaking and remastering their old games. Case in point, Super Mario 64 DS. All things considered, it's a pretty good remake. New stages, new missions, new characters, and improved physics and level design. The only major issue is the D-pad controls. The new characters also kinda break the game. Luigi's backflip single-handedly clears almost every obstacle in the entire game by itself. A no backflipping challenge wouldn't really be all that exciting, and a no new characters challenge would be impossible because you start as Yoshi, and also something I technically did as a kid, outside of Yoshi, because I had no idea how to unlock any of them. But then I saw some people making tool-assisted runs trying to complete this game without jumping, just like the original game. That's what gave me the idea to do this challenge. It actually looked plausible for a human being to pull some of that stuff off. Now, one final note before we move on to the rules. If any of these strategies seem a little too big-brained, they were likely from one of these two people. Josh65536, who is currently working on a Super Mario 64 DS ROM hack. Check him out in the card up above. And Adil, who is currently doing a true jumpless challenge of New Super Mario Bros. Wii. So if this video interests you, you should probably check them out too. Anyway, without further ado, let's find out if you can beat Super Mario 64 DS without jumping. For this run, the rules are simple but interesting. We're just not allowed to push the B button at any time for any reason. This cuts off a huge chunk of our moveset. First, the obvious ones. Single, double, and triple jumps, side flips, back flips, long jumps, wall kicks, jumping out of water, and jumping off poles are all banned. Less obvious things that are also banned are kicking, falling slowly while twirling or with the wing cap, rising up with the Balloon Mario power-up, and fluttering. That's a lot of banned moves, but thankfully we do still have some moves and techniques we can rely on. As for optional challenges, we'll try to beat the game normally by getting the 80 stars needed to pass the endless stairs, don't worry, you'll understand why this is an optional challenge later, and unlock Luigi and Wario. With all this info finally out of the way, let's get into the run. First things first, we have to get used to our new controls. We don't have many movement options left. In fact, you might be wondering how we're even going to enter the first level. If you're familiar with the Super Mario 64 A button challenge, you might know they make great use of diving and using the rollout flip from a dive recovery to gain a little bit of vertical height. We can't do that here because we start this game playing as Yoshi, and Yoshi only knows how to eat. So, what's a dinosaur with a broken leg from too many mirror dismounts supposed to do? Well, we can slide kick instead. In this version of the game, we can slide kick by pressing A with momentum while crouching and perform a rollout flip with the same button. This is all we need to enter Bob-omb Battlefield. Bob-omb Battlefield's really not that bad. There's only one ledge and one gap we have to traverse for most areas of the course, and the gap isn't even a difficult one. The hardest part is getting used to our new controls while we head up the mountain and blow up this old boomer. The second star just requires us to climb the mountain again, but faster, so it's no problem either. Although we do have to become Mario by putting on his cap because Koopa the Quick refuses to race anyone else. He might be a little obsessed, just saying. The next star, though, is a Silver Star mission. These are brand new for the DS version, requiring you to grab 5 silver stars to make a Power Star appear. This one shows us one of our new mortal enemies, poles and trees. Good thing there's a cannon nearby to remind us that you can fire cannons with the A button. All we have to do is aim way above the silver star and shoot directly into it with the cannon. The rest are no problem. It's the same for the 4th star, a new one for this version, where we just have to beat up the old boomer again while cosplaying as Mario this time. Because of our limited movesets, I couldn't find any way to pound this post to free the chain shop right now, so we'll just leave this course for later with 4 stars in hand. Pretty nice so far. Next, we went to the Princess's Secret Slide. We can easily get into the window to enter the course, and there's no need to jump here normally, so we can get both the regular star and the timed star for finishing in less than 21 seconds. We'll gladly take 2 freebie stars. I then made the mistake of heading into Sunshine Isles, a brand new course for the DS version. It's a silver star mission, and I'm gonna save you all some time and say that we can't get this star because one of the silver stars we need is hiding on top of this tree, way out of our reach. I knew those trees were bad news. The next course we tackle is Womp's Fortress, normally a small step up from Bob-omb Battlefield. It's significantly harder to navigate for us than Bob-omb Battlefield was, though, with more ledges and obstacles to deal with. Once we reach King Womp at the top for the first star, one problem makes itself apparent. Although we can grab ledges during a rollout flip, we cannot ground pound. That's a bit of an issue when this boss can only be damaged by a ground pound. I did try using the nearby platforms. At their peak, they give you just barely enough height to pound King Womp. However, to say this is finicky would be an understatement. His position has to be perfect, your position has to be perfect, and the timing has to be perfect with the platforms too. I tried this for a while, but I got absolutely nowhere. Does that mean we can't get any stars here at all? Well, no, because the DS version added a new section of the level that's very nice to us. While this section isn't exactly easy to navigate jumpless, it does give us access to a timed switch star, another new invention of the DS version. The time limit is a concern, but we can still get there with plenty of time to spare if we nail our sick kickflips every time. With a star under our belt, we can get a Bob-omb buddy to spawn and open the cannon, which lets us blast away this wall for another easy star. Now that we have 8 stars, it's time to go grab Mario. This is yet another new thing added to the DS version. We have to rescue the other 3 characters in new courses, and here's a really cool looking one for Mario. It looks way more complicated than it really is. All we care about is heading over here and climbing this vine. While poles, trees, and vines are our mortal enemies, this one's nice enough that we can just barely reach the nearby ledge at the top if we press R to let go of the vine. Once we're up here, it's as simple as dropping into this opening and beating up Goom Boss. He's not made any harder by not jumping, so we have 0 issues making mushroom stew out of him. With that, we finally unlocked the ability to play as Mario in Super Mario 64 DS. The only question left is, how did Mario lose to that guy? Once Mario joined our band of landlocked legends, I went back to Womp's Fortress to grab Shoot into the Wild Blue. In the process, I found out that you can grab ledges out of a cannon shot. Guess you'll learn something new every day. The next course on our list is Cool Cool Mountain, and it is actually a pretty cool course for this challenge. Slip, Slide, and Away and Big Penguin Race are relatively simple. Just head into the chimney and slide. You don't really need to jump. That's where the easy part ends, though. We can't get up to this upper ledge from the chimney because a rollout flip doesn't get high enough to grab the ledge. Instead, we'll have to try climbing up this slippery slope on the side, partially blocked by this ice block. It's really difficult to climb up here. Of course, we can't just walk up, so we have to chain slide kicks together to keep our balance and move up. It's incredibly easy to slide down or drift too far to the left or right and miss the slope altogether. I spent so long trying to get up here that the baby penguin got tired of my aimless shenanigans and came down the slope on its own. I've never gotten Little Penguin lost quite like that before. And don't worry, I didn't murder the baby penguin. I'm a good person, right? There was no such luck for the red coin star, though. I had to get up that slope, because one of the coins was frozen in that same ice block that was blocking the path up. This took way too many tries, and once I did it, I still wasn't out of the woods. There's this other coin in an ice block that's on an extremely dangerous ledge. Trying to get down here without sliding off is difficult. If you slip and slide on your belly, you can press A to recover easily, but if you start butt sliding, all you can do is hope you hit something. Otherwise, you're going down and there is nothing you can do about it. The wind can still save us, but it's not reliable. Once I managed to get both of these frozen red coins in one attempt though, the rest weren't a problem thanks to this teleport making it easy to get back up the mountain. One issue I had left was getting to the spot where the red coin star spawns. Normally, you long jump across this gap in the broken bridge, but that's a bit too far for us to cross. Instead, I used a slide kick to head down the slope from the top of the mountain and then rollout flip while sliding to get onto this ledge and get the star from behind. Outside of getting up that evil slope again, Snowman's Lost His Head is incredibly simple by comparison with no major challenges. Just turn this nobody into a somebody and you'll have it. The next star though is Mario's Super Wall Kick, which normally requires Mario and wall kicks. However, there is a helpful enemy called a Spindrift up here. Landing on it boosts you way up into the air and causes you to twirl, which makes you fall very slowly and have much more mid-air control. We can twirl all the way down from the top of the mountain to this top platform we're supposed to reach with wall kicks and grab the star, which means we can get Mario's Super Wall Kick with no Mario and no wall kicks. Wow, Super is a really bland name for a star, don't you think? Anyway, with that, let's move on from this course. 6 stars seems pretty good. Speaking of good things, Jolly Roger Bay teaches us that we can swim normally with the Y button. With that, we have no trouble navigating the underwater sections of the stage. The walls inside the ship are less slippery than you'd expect, so plundering the sunken ship was easy. Can the eel come out to play is exactly the same as usual since it's entirely underwater, and Treasure in the Ocean Cave doesn't have any difficult platforming. After that though, we hit a bit of a wall. Getting blasted the stone pillars seems really difficult. Poles are our enemy, so we can't just jump off the stone pillar like usual, and we can't shoot directly onto the platform the same way you can in the original game. We can get to the ship, but the upper part of the ship that houses the final 2 red coins is just too high to rollout flip up to, and the cannon won't help us here either. The other 2 stars require Wario and Luigi's special powers, so I can't get them yet. Unfortunately, you can't just swim to the Jetstream star, so we've gotta look elsewhere. Tower of the Wingcap turned out to be more interesting than I expected. We start out flying in midair, so we have no trouble with the red coin star here, but actually hitting the switch was a little more challenging. We can't get high enough to hit the switch with the rollout flip, so I had to dive bomb straight onto the switch from above to push it. With that, we've unlocked these red blocks, and they might actually be more useful than you'd think. Case in point, I found a use for Balloon Mario immediately after unlocking him. He can't float up without the B button, so you'd think he'd have no use at all, but he has 2 powers we can still use. He bounces slightly off the ground, and he can ground pound while in midair. With both of these powers combined, we can pound this blue coin switch and grab every single one, and that was more than enough to get the 100 coin star of Jolly Roger Bay. Let's hope we don't have to rely on 100 coin stars. With 20 stars under our belt, we finally move on to Bowser in the Dark World. This course is relatively flat and straightforward, so we don't have any real issues until we reach the final section. We can't get up the standard way because the first platform doesn't give us enough space, so we'll just have to abuse these seesaws to make it up. This is a lot harder than it looks. You have to perfectly balance the seesaws between too high to keep your momentum and too low to make it to the next ledge. Once we do get it right, we can get all the way up to the Bowser pipe. But we could also get over here to get the last red coin, and might as well take the free star while we're here. Okay, that wasn't quite free. In fact, it was actually way harder than I made it sound. And we still have a timed switch star to grab as well. Normally the timer for this switch star is very lenient, but in this run, we have to be perfect to make it on time. If we make any mistakes, we're never gonna make it. Eventually, after numerous tries, I fine-tuned every step to perfection and got the 2nd star of the course. I made sure to give Bowser my complaints for not making this level handicap accessible, and got myself a shiny basement key as compensation. I spent hours on this. As a palate cleanser, I headed out to the courtyard to follow the nice ghosts, and they gave me a star after I beat the red coins out of them. What a nice donation, huh? Then, I committed some vandalism to find the Battle Fort, another DS exclusive course, and grab its silver stars to net myself another golden star. I did try entering Big Boo's haunt, but let's just say we'll save this one for later. Trust me, you'll see why soon enough. Just know that I left empty-handed with only the 2 courtyard stars. I finally used the shiny key I got from Bowser to enter the basement, where this toad already knew the rules and gave up his star without much of a fight. Then, I got sent to hell for all the crimes I just committed. Lethal Lava Land actually isn't that bad. The lava hurts, but it also boosts us up way higher than we can get with a rollout flip, so it makes it easier to get around. There isn't too much to worry about on our way to boil the big bully, and then boil his children afterwards, which nets us 2 stars. The 8-coin puzzle with 15 pieces is just as easy as usual, and red hot log rolling is only slightly more difficult when you can't jump to keep yourself oriented. The real trouble starts with the volcano. Even getting inside is tricky. We need either a good lava boost or a good boost from this fire shooter to make it in, because the volcano is way too steep to walk up. Inside the volcano, we run into issues not too far in. This ledge near the crusher is too high to grab, and the elevator section has this pole standing in our way, too far away from the nearest ledge for our brilliant R-button strategy to work. And yes, I did try the lava fall. You can't burn yourself on the side of it in this version. Is this the end for this course? Actually, not quite. This crusher isn't completely impossible to stand on. Sure, it moves and it's incredibly slippery, but that's not enough to stop us. First, we need to stand on the very edge of its activation radius and then build up a Y charge. By holding the Y button in the DS version, you can build up speed and then sprint from a standstill. Then just wait and pick your moment to get on top of the cheese grater platform, and then start showing off your moves. Punching, kicking, breakdancing, they all keep Mario from losing his footing just long enough for the platform to start retracting so we can get on top of the ledge. Okay, I'm surprised that worked. With that, these platforms have some tricky spacing, but nothing our stylish moves can't handle. Not much further up though, we arrive at a set of poles blocking our way. Each one is spaced out just far enough that we can't bridge the gap by dropping off. It looks like it should be barely possible, but I just couldn't seem to get enough distance to grab the next pole. So yes, this does mean that not only can we get close enough to see both volcano stars on screen at the same time, but also that both stars are blocked by evil poles. Never before have I hated Poland with such a passion. After that defeat, I decided to use the shell to grab enough coins for the 100 coin star and leave for courses that might be a little nicer to us. Shifting Sandland is pretty coarse, rough, and irritating for us. While Lethal Lava Land was full of burning lava that could actually help us get around, this course is instead full of quicksand that just kills you. The main area of the course is actually relatively safe for jumpless travel though, as long as you can avoid the giant metal boxes. Reaching Klepto for the first star isn't so easy though, since we don't have enough space for a rollout on top of these pillars. Instead, we have to open up the cannon and use the wing cap to violate his airspace and take the star from the big bird's talons. I've never had to take such drastic measures to get that star before. Along the way, I discovered that having your cap stolen is horrible in this challenge because there's no easy way to reach Klepto to get him to drop it again. I actually had to go back and redo another star to get the cap to spawn in the castle lobby. I'm just gonna be thankful and not ask how Toad found it. As long as you can stay far away from birds trying to steal everything you own, the second star shining atop the pyramid is easy if you just shoot yourself up to it with the wing cap. Just don't miss, otherwise it won't end well for you. Now, it's time to enter the pyramid itself, and this is where things get more difficult. The platforming's a little trickier, and the slow quicksand is terrifying in this challenge. Keeping yourself above the slow sand requires jumping, so all we can do is slowly trudge through hoping to reach solid ground before we drown. I had trouble getting all the way up the pyramid for the third star, but what I was able to do was get on top of this room at the center. Once I did, I just had to drop in with a ledge grab to fight I-Rock. In hand-to-hand combat between Giant Hands and Mario's hands always win. Snagging the star afterwards was a little trickier. I had to platform on this debris to get the correct angle to grab the ledge and the star. I bet the people who designed this arena never thought that debris would ever be important to anyone. The red coins are all outside the pyramid, so I was able to grab all of them by flying around and exercising a little caution. The rest of the stars here weren't looking so hot though, so I decided to move on for now. Hazy Mazy Cavey is a weird level normally, and it's not getting any more normal for this run. The first star is easy, just find this swimming beast, take its beret, and use your warrior strength to break an entire boulder with your bare hands. Unfortunately, it's a bit tricky to do anything else. I couldn't climb up these stairs to reach the red coins, and the maze exits are way too high to possibly reach. This place could really use some ramps. I even tried to lure one of these sniffets down closer to the ground so I could eat it, transport it, then spit it out and bounce on it to get more height. I spent about 10 minutes trying to lure it down to the ground, and then it just died when I ate it, so it was all for nothing. But there was still one more star I could easily get. In this part of the video, I'll be explaining exactly what I do to collect Watch for Rolling Rocks in 0 B presses. First, we have to collect this yellow hat to gain Wario strength, then navigate to the Rolling Rock room to break this brick and eat a mushroom to gain even more strength. With all this extra strength, we can start Giant Rock Breaking, or GRB for short. You might be wondering what I'm breaking all these rocks for. After all, I do break rocks for 10 seconds. Once we build up enough broken rocks, this causes the star to appear, and that's Watch for Rolling Rocks done in 0 B presses. Wow, I did not expect this part of the video to become 0.5 minutes long when I started commentating. Anyway, time for things to get dire. Dire Docks is another water level, which is pretty nice for us. Bowser's sub has barely any security, so we have no trouble boarding it for our first star. Good thing, because our challenge might be in jeopardy otherwise. We can also open some sunken treasure and swim through some rings for 2 more stars, but that's all we'll get for now. The next star is titled Pole Jumping for red coins, so I don't see much chance of getting that one, and the other stars require help from Luigi and Wario. We might be back later. For now, with 39 stars in hand, things might heat up a little as we enter Bowser's opening. Bowser in the Fire Sea, honestly, really wasn't that bad. Having convenient lava everywhere for lava boosts helped a lot. There's a ton of otherwise insurmountable ledges that require a lava boost, mostly due to cold, cruel poles blocking our way. Somehow, though, the one pole we're actually required to use is close enough that we can grab the ledge from a pole release. Good thing too, otherwise I have no idea what we would have done. The Super Mario 64 A-Button challenge is still stuck on this exact obstacle as I'm writing this script. Anyway, while we can make it to the top, both the red coin star and the timed switch star are on top of this ledge, which is way too high to even consider getting up to. So I just gave Bowser the same treatment his level gave me and took the key to the 3rd floor. This doesn't mean we're going to the 3rd floor just yet, though. I'm still missing quite a few stars, especially in Shifting Sandland, so I headed back there. Turns out you can climb the pyramid, with all its complicated platforms and traps, without a single jump. Getting up most of it isn't a problem. This bottom area is only scary if you fall into the sinking sand, and climbing up doesn't pose an issue until you reach this part. You're supposed to hang onto or jump on top of this metal mesh, but we can't do either of those things, so we're gonna have to improvise. What I did was slide kick onto this slope. It'll push you out into the sand stream, but you still have some time to perform a rollout flip. Then you have to make sure to land on this paper-thin ledge. Too little momentum and you'll land back in the sand stream and fall to the bottom. Too much momentum and you'll overshoot the ledge and fall to the bottom anyway. Once you're on the tiny ledge, you gotta walk the tightrope up to this spot, fighting the camera the whole time, then do another slide kick across the sand. Now that we're here, how are we gonna climb these tiny ledges? We can get to this part, but there isn't enough space for a regular slide kick. What we can do is exploit this game's weird physics with a technique I'd call an edge kick. A slide kick on the very edge of a platform, just far enough that the wall can't block your slide kick, and just close enough that the wall still stops you from advancing, while there's also still a floor beneath you. It sounds complicated, but it's actually not that bad, and it lets us get up this step. Then, we just slide kick into the corner, where 2 walls intersect and don't stop us from rolling out to climb the ledge. Once we're past that, it's much of the same. Well-timed rollout flips to get up these annoying platforms, pull releases to grab ledges, until we run into another problem. The star platform is just barely too high to grab from a rollout. At first, I thought this might be insurmountable, but then I found out that you can get onto this tiny ledge on the side, and it's stable enough to stand on without sliding off. It's really easy to mess up and fall back down to the bottom, and this climb takes a few minutes even if you don't make any mistakes on the way up. But with enough persistence and good timing, I was able to time a rollout from this tiny railing to grab the ledge and the star. It felt really good once I finally pulled it off. This isn't the only star I didn't get though. The 100 coin star was also on the table. We can steal quite a few coins from outside of the pyramid, but it's not quite enough for 100, so we're going to need to finish the job inside. The inside of the pyramid doesn't have that many coins though. Most of them are locked behind an evil blue switch. Why is it evil? Because it chose to hide itself away in a corner where we have no chance to reach it with Balloon Mario before the power-up wears off. How are we gonna teach it a lesson? Why, of course, by abusing the game's weird physics even harder. There's a box nearby, and we need to get it on top of the switch. Then we get on top of the switch, and here's the hard part. Walk off the side of the switch while carrying the box, and the instant your feet aren't on the ground, do a ground pound and hope the box pushes you back far enough to hit the switch. Trust me, this is way harder than it looks. Your timing has to be absolutely perfect, and you can't just mash R because that'll make you crouch and drop the box. Once we punish this blue switch for its sins, we can grab the blue coins we need and grab our 100 coin star. I think we definitely earned that one, didn't we? The rest of the stars here are locked behind a Wario mission, so now we can finally move on to the third floor with a clear mind. Now that we're on the third floor, we have a whole bunch of new courses to choose from. First, I robbed this toad because I gotta get stars somehow. Karma immediately struck though as I entered the next course. Tiny Huge Island is a course we can get 0 stars in. When we enter the tiny painting, we're stuck in this area with impassable gaps and water we can't escape without jumping. And we can't get into the huge painting because it's just too high up to reach. That was disappointing because this is a course I really liked and I wanted to see how much of it I could actually do. If I could get into the huge version, I'm sure I could have gotten at least 1 star. Hopefully we don't need any of these stars. The next one I tried was Tall Tall Mountain. I was able to climb the other tall courses, so this one should be fine, right? Well, it's probably possible to cross these opening gaps, but it would be very tricky. Good thing they put this random wind current here to carry me up instead. I have no idea why this is here, but I'm very grateful. This gap was a little tricky to cross, but the real problem is over here. This one's way too long for you to possibly cross, so we can't climb up the entire mountain. That locks us out of several stars already. We can't even get the slide star because it's just a little further up the mountain than what we can reach. So what can we actually get? Well, we can easily get above the red coin section and grab 3 of them while descending, but the 4th one was a little trickier because it's hiding on a tiny enclosed ledge. The method I used to get it was to point the camera in a specific direction, build up a Y charge, sprint, and immediately slide kick into this corner. We get carried into the corner, then we gain lots of backward speed from the slope, which lets us get into just the right position and angle to recover, grab the ledge, and take the 4th coin. After that, we still have these scary shrooms. They really are scary when you can't jump, but after a lot of tries, I was able to grab all 8 red coins and fall onto the star from above. Okay, that was a lot harder than I thought it would be. Now, I was forced to commit the greatest sin in this game's history. I actually had to get Blast the Lonely Mushroom by using the cannon. I know, it's horrifying, but sometimes you have to stoop pretty low to complete challenges like this. I hadn't done the cannon method in so long that it actually took several tries to get the perfect shot and grab the star. Once we're done with that, we're finished with this course. Not being able to make it higher up the mountain really killed our momentum here. There are probably a couple of comments down below already talking about Hoot the Owl, his ability to carry us high into the air, and how they added him to this course in the DS version. I appreciate the advice, but we have to hold the jump button for him to carry us, so that's not allowed. Now that I mentioned it though, comment about it anyway. After all, comments are good for the YouTube algorithm. Speaking of things that are good for the YouTube algorithm, tons of people talk about the negative emotional aura of Wet Dry World. Personally, I never really felt that way because it's actually one of my favorite courses. It's also nicer than you'd think to our paralyzed protagonists. Although we're stuck with the lowest initial water level, the first star is dead simple to get by using this warp. It's always been hilarious to me how many alternative ways there are to get this star. The second star was a little harder. To even get onto the first ledge up, I had to push this box over to use it as a step stool. The heave-hos are able to launch me up to the top floor, but I soon found a new problem. You can't grab onto the edge of this wooden beam. Maybe it's too thin? I have no idea, but it made things a lot more complicated. To get onto it, we need to hope the Chukya throws us up onto it, or position the heave-ho in a specific spot to launch us up onto it. Somehow, by pure dumb luck, I managed to get launched up, but then missed the rollout flip across the last gap. Turns out I was approaching this all wrong. All I really had to do was open this cannon and nail a shot straight towards the star on my first try. The rest of the stars here seem daunting, so let's head somewhere else and cool off for a while. Snowman's Land makes for a very interesting course to navigate because it's very flat, but still has a few difficult ledges to climb. Nothing stops us from melting the ice bully in ice water? I never understood that. We can also use a spindrift to twirl over the freezing pond and grab this star relatively easily. Yoshi's ice sculpture is a slightly changed star from the original game, and it made for a challenging climb. We have to carry a flame in Yoshi's mouth and climb these ice block pillars until we can melt the block with the star in it. We have to be careful that we don't press A by mistake and breathe fire too early because we need all of these platforms intact. At first, I thought this might be impossible, but the ice blocks each just have barely enough space for a perfectly timed rollout flip if you start your slide kick as early as possible. It was a little tricky, but I was able to chisel the star out of the ice. Just don't ask me what this sculpture was supposed to represent. There was one major obstacle standing in the way of further progress in this stage. Even if we can get up to it, we can't grab the ledge on top of the ice block cannon, so we need to find a way around it. The easiest way I found was to use one of these spindrifts near the start point of the course to bounce right over to the other side, landing right above the ice block cannon. Then you need to find just the right angle to flip onto this ledge, use this penguin as a shield, and take a dive in a specific spot to enter the igloo. What, you didn't think we'd get on top of the snowman's head with just a kickflip, did you? I wouldn't blame you if you completely forgot, since you never need to use it for anything at all, but there is a usable cannon in Snowman's Land. That's what we needed to get into the igloo for. The Bob-omb buddy who opens the cannon is hiding inside. There's also an escapable freezing death water inside, but death is no major obstacle for us. Once we open up the cannon, we can skip the entire process of climbing and just shoot our way up to the snowman's head to steal his star. And that makes 50, which is enough to access the third floor. It probably doesn't seem important yet, but trust me, it will be soon enough. 50 isn't quite enough for the endless stairs, so let's start revisiting some courses. First, let's grab all the stars we're missing from Bob-omb Battlefield. With the wing cap power, we can easily get Mario wings to the sky by flying through these coin rings, and the 8 red coins are even easier. The hard part comes with freeing this chain chomp. The only way to ground pound the post to free him is to take to the air and ground pound it from above. Hitting such a small target while flying at high speed is actually pretty tricky. Eventually though, we manage it and take our just reward. Once we grab the 100 coin star, the course is now 100% complete, which adds 4 stars to our total. If this seems disjointed, then sorry, this is just the order I got these stars in. Back up on the second floor, Wet Dry World has a lot more secrets in store. 5 of them, actually. The first 2 secrets are no problem, since all you have to do is push boxes. The other 3 secrets were what worried me, since they're all inside hard-to-reach blocks. The solution turned out to be Balloon Mario. With his incredible floating powers, he can reach this block containing the 3rd secret and pound it from above. He can even gain momentum by bouncing off the invisible wall on the edge of the course to reach this mesh platform and the block containing the 4th secret. This doesn't mean the entire problem is solved though, since we still have block number 5 to go, all the way down here. It's too far away and too low to use Balloon Mario since his time limit is too strict, and it's too high to kickflip up to from the ground level. What are we gonna do then? Well, do you remember that warp we used to get the first star? The warp takes us here, which is close enough to the block that we could just fall onto it from above. Problem is, I can't actually see the block from this platform. It's too low to appear in the zoomed out camera view, and I can't look far enough down in the close-up cam. That didn't stop me from repeatedly throwing myself off this ledge, counting the columns of bricks on the wall to aim, until I hit my target. Then I just had to get to the dock where the star spawned. It's way too high to reach with a rollout flip, and too far away to float to with Balloon Mario, so I raised the water level high enough to just swim to it. I knew that water level mechanic would come in handy. Next up, we have an express elevator to catch. I knew this one was going to be tricky since it involves speed and platforming. When we touch the elevator, it drops down, and then rises back up after a few seconds. I already knew the elevator doesn't drop down to ground level, so I'm gonna need to find another way to get onto it. Swimming up onto the platform might be an option, but you move slower in water, so I have to find the perfect balance that won't slow me down too much, while still giving me enough water height to get on top of the elevator. I could have just increased the water level and swam to this water switch, but instead I took the cool path of barely reaching this platform with Balloon Mario and edge kicking up these platforms. Sometimes the hard and stupid way is more fun. Setting the water level is just the first step though. We still need to actually swim onto the elevator within the time limit. We've got to perfect our movement and swimming as much as possible if we want any chance of making it. Touch the elevator, fall off the ledge, immediately ground pound so we can fall faster, turn around and swim under the elevator so it pushes us downwards, then point and swim with perfect accuracy. It may not have been the hardest star we've tackled, but I genuinely had to think about how to get this one. The next stars on the list are down in the flooded town, but there's no way we can make any progress there. This place very much expects you to jump, and there's no easy ways around it like with the above area. In this hellish place, heave-hos don't exist, and there are only 2 water switches. One that drops the water level to its absolute minimum, and one I can't even reach. Even the almighty Balloon Mario can't help us here. So, what are we gonna do? Well, when I laid out the rules, I didn't bang glitches, so it's time for minor programming errors to help us out. In most games, objects don't get rendered when the camera can't see them, to save on performance. No point in rendering stuff the player can't see, after all. In this game, it also disables certain aspects of those objects, like their collision and AI. These blocks are a good example. When you can't see them, they don't exist. Now comes the last part of the puzzle. If you're right next to a wall, you can force the camera through the wall with the close-up cam. If you exit the close-up cam right as the camera enters the wall, it'll get stuck inside for a short time, unable to see anything. Do this while standing on top of a block, and you can fall through and end up inside the block, where you can punch to push yourself out of bounds. This is known as a block clip. Once we're out of bounds, we have to be careful. There's plenty of things that can go wrong, ranging from falling out of the stage entirely and dying, to somehow missing the water and breaking our back in the tunnel. No points for guessing if you can get back out. Once we're properly in the water, we discover something interesting. The town isn't even loaded in. If you're swimming through the tunnel like a good boy, it's supposed to unload the upper area and then load the town and all its objects while you're swimming through it. Don't worry, we can break this rule too. We just have to swim close enough to the tunnel to touch the invisible loading zone to get the town to appear, while being careful not to get too close and pop back in bounds. By the way, don't try to explore too far. Even though the town is invisible and unloaded, its collision still exists, and you can get trapped inside the phantom town if you get too close. Spooky. Once you learn how to swim outside the bounds of reality, you can load the town while staying out of bounds, and there's one star we can easily get to this way. We can swim around the cage to grab this star from behind, completely skipping the need to use Luigi's invisibility power. Boy, breaking the fabric of space and time is exhausting. Grabbing 100 coins really wasn't that bad after that, with the help of all the blocks everywhere and the blue coin switch. With 4 more stars under our belt for a total of 58, it's time to head back to a stage that's been haunting me for a while. Big Boo's Haunt. You might remember me bringing it up earlier and glossing over it. There's a reason for that. I went in here not once, not twice, but 3 times before I left with a single star. What's the reason? Well, busting these ghosts wasn't a problem, it's what came right afterward. These stairs. I tried setting up while they were rising up, but I quickly found out that wasn't happening, since I'd only get 1 try at it before needing to reset the level and hunt down the ghosts again. If I was gonna get up these, I'd have to do it while they were stationary. The first time I entered, I couldn't even get past the first step with such a limited space. The second time, I could get up the steps with edge kicking, but couldn't climb the final step. On the third attempt, though, I was determined to find a way to make it all the way up. As you can see, we have very little room to work with. As you might already have realized, bumping into a wall during a slide kick prevents us from flipping out of it. There's also an actual wall, preventing us from edge kicking our way up like we did with the other steps. There is just barely enough room to pull off a slide kick recover if your timing and spacing are perfect, but even that's not quite enough. Grabbing ledges from straight on is very straightforward, but the further away you're facing from the ledge, the more height you'll need to make up for that. This means that not only do we need a perfectly timed and perfectly spaced rollout flip, but it needs to be at the perfect angle too. It was very difficult, but eventually I nailed the perfect kickflip and got a gold star for my effort. I lost some of the footage, but this took at least 2 hours of kicking stairs like an idiot until I fumbled my way up. It was a little painful. The second star, on the other hand, is easy. Just head down and kill more ghosts, literally nothing to it. The third star, once you get up the stairs again, also isn't too bad. We can hit the books to solve the puzzle with punch-punch-kick combos easily. That's also the last thing we're doing here. Why? Well, someone decided to relocate one of the red coins all the way over here for the remake. That would be hard to reach even if we wouldn't have to climb the stairs again every time we fail. And don't even think about trying to get up to the balcony. I think both of these are technically possible with tool assistance, but I wanted to make progress with only my own skill unless I absolutely had to. This also means we can't rescue Luigi, since his level is on the balcony. So I guess this means Luigi's just gonna be locked up forever now. Maybe trying to pick up that free mansion was a bad idea. If only this place had an elevator. After remembering and doing a Silver Star mission in Snowman's Land, which had a couple of tricky placements but nothing impossible, and robbing the last toad in the castle of his most prized possession, things started to look dire, and I got a little desperate. Desperate enough to try to kill the Womp King again, in fact. Destroying him seemed like a good idea since that would let me unlock the Tower Star as well. Sadly, using the platforms to pound his back hasn't gotten any easier since I tried it the first time. I tried to get clever too, and use the tricks I'd learned so far, but they weren't especially effective. I couldn't pull off the walk off then immediately ground pound strategy without a box, and unfortunately there's no box here anymore, it's been removed from the DS version. Out of all the changes this remake makes to the original game design, I'm still the most confused by this box being removed. I even thought about using the Wing Cap or Balloon Mario to attack, but the only power-up block in this entire stage contains nothing but bombs. I guess he knew my strategy before even I knew my strategy. In hindsight, I don't think these ideas would have been useful even if they did work, but I was getting pretty desperate. I spent 2 hours straight trying to beat him. Not once did I get more than 1 hit on him per attempt, and his health resets every time the fight does. At that point, I decided I wasn't trying that one again unless I was completely out of options. Snowman's Land still has more stars to check out. Although the main Igloo Star is impossible because we don't have Luigi's powers, there are still red coins inside to grab in the DS version alongside the completely different layout. Even if it looks impossible, we have all the tools we need. You'd think the coins inside the inescapable freezing death water would stop us cold, right? Yoshi's tongue disagrees because its auto-aim is strong enough to snag the underwater coinage from the very edge of these platforms. The rest of the coins are above water, but some of them require bouncing on spindrifts. These are the actually dangerous ones. Twirling makes you fall very slowly, but it's really hard to control your momentum while twirling, and bumping into a wall will send you crashing to the ground, usually into the death water. There are also only a limited number of spindrifts in the room, so we have to use them wisely and carefully. Transporting them in Yoshi's mouth helps to make sure you get the right angle for the dangling coins. 11 attempts later, I was able to get all 8 red coins in 1 life and get back to the star. Then, I remembered there was a star in Womp's Fortress I could actually get. There's so many coins there that you can easily get the 100 coin star, even if you can't reach the blue coin switch. Honestly, I have no idea why I didn't get this earlier. There's also the 100 coin star in Cool Cold Mountain, where you can get almost all the coins you need just by sliding. Despite its name, this mountain did anything but treat us coldly. It was actually pretty cool, all things considered. Anyway, there's a couple more stars I really can't blame myself for not getting earlier. In Hazy Mazy Cavey, it turns out you can get up to where the red coins are. How? Well, from this platform, if you aim yourself just right and sprint off the edge, you can reach this platform, climb the pole, and have access to all 8 red coins that way. Now, this is easier said than done. Getting to this red coin platform is deceptively hard, and you only have 1 shot at this. If you fall, you have to exit the course and try again. Once you get the red coins from the elevator, you still need to use this anti-gravitational DDR pad to get the rest, but it won't be a problem as long as you bring a character who can break these bricks. So that's 1 star down, but what's the other one? Would you believe me if I said the 100 coin star here was also possible? It requires a very specific route. First, we need to start off as Yoshi. Little known fact about Yoshi's eggs. Not only do they auto-aim at the nearest target, but they'll try to chain hits together if valid targets are nearby, with the egg releasing its contents each time. So if you make an egg out of something that has multiple coins, like this box, and get it to chain hits together, you can get the coins from that box multiple times. Next, we need to grab the Wario cap and repeat the same steps we used for the red coin star. Thankfully, Wario's excess weight doesn't slow him down too much. Then, just run around the entire course, grabbing every single coin we possibly can. I got about 90 coins, then finished it off with a blue coin switch we actually can reach. It was nicer than I thought once I managed to get the red coins in 1 go. Also, I took damage from the gas while the game was saving the 100 coin star. Man, weird challenges like to teach you weird things about the games you love sometimes. There's also Snowman's Land, of course, which has plenty of coins up for grabs. To make things a little easier, I went for the igloo first. There are plenty of coins inside, and I'd rather get the deadliest place out of the way first when going for a 100 coin star. Once I made it out of the igloo that's bigger on the inside with my life, the rest of the coins were no trouble at all. As you might have already guessed though, we are almost out of stars we can actually get. We're pretty much out of courses too. Tiny Huge Island is still a bust, and we can't reach a single one of the courses on the 3rd floor because they're just too high up. So what is there left to do? Are we just stuck so close to our goal? Actually, no. We're not. But to explain why, first we need to talk about the afterlife. Wait, no I don't, I just need to tell you about heaven and hell portals. This is gonna get complicated, but I'll try my best. First of all, there are several sliding states. Slide kicking, diving, slipping, which is just diving but backwards, and butt sliding. One unique property all of these states share is that with the right conditions, you'll snap down to the nearest floor beneath you. How does the game test for a floor beneath you? It uses a raycast. Basically, it checks straight below you and reports the first floor it finds. But what if it finds no floor at all? This is much easier said than done, since most areas have floors. It also won't work in any area with lava or a death barrier, which further limits the areas you can use this in. However, the 3rd floor of the castle is one area you can use this in. It's even got perfect spots to use this with, since these stairs have glitchy corners where it's possible to trick the game into thinking there's no floor beneath your feet. If you are in a sliding state in an area where the game believes there is no floor beneath you, you'll warp. However, your timing has to be very specific for this to work. If your timing is off, you'll warp to the lowest possible position the DS can measure, and immediately die from being below the stage boundary. Life is kinda cruel sometimes, isn't it? That's called a down warp. If your timing is right, you'll up warp. That's a down warp with downward momentum, which causes your position to underflow and become the absolute highest position the game can measure instead. Your positioning is also important. Once you've been up warped, you'll keep traveling forward depending on which sliding state you're in. In order to stop being up warped to the top of the stage, there has to be a certain amount of solid ground beneath you for the game to recognize you should be falling. If that condition is satisfied, you'll stop warping and start falling from the very top of the stage. This is called a heaven portal, and it lets you do many wonderful things. So what's a hell portal? Well, that's what happens if there isn't enough solid ground beneath you. You'll never stop up warping, stuck in a black abyss until you press A and accept your death. Okay, hopefully I didn't put you guys to sleep right there. In case you want to know more about how this works, there should be a card in the upper right directing you to a video from Josh65536. This is the video I used to learn about how this trick works myself, and it explains this trick in far more detail than I just did. If you're wondering how hard this is to actually pull off, it took me 2 hours to get a heaven portal to work and take me to where I wanted to go. I could use this to skip straight to Bowser in the Sky, but I really wanted to meet my goal of getting 80 stars beforehand, so I tried to land behind the mirror in the Snowman's Land room instead to rescue Wario. Normally, you need Luigi and his special invisibility power to get in there, but there's no need for him when you can break basic laws of physics and reality instead. Once you're there, you have to guess where you are and feel around for a door. Inside, not only do we have another secret star under our belt, but we can head back in and load the room properly, on the wrong side of the mirror. Now it's finally time to head inside Wario's pet. The painting is just barely too high to reach. The painting is just barely too high to reach. It took me this long to be stopped by a painting being 1 centimeter too high. I couldn't believe it. I had to try a few more times before I confirmed that, yes, this painting is too high to get into by the smallest possible amount. We got a star out of this trip, but we weren't able to get Wario this way. He'd let us get several extra stars, but he's just out of our reach. It was certainly worth a shot, though. I was a little demoralized, but I headed back to a star that also deserved another shot. Blast the Stone Pillar in Jolly Roger Bay. I had done research and found out this star was possible. I just had to actually pull it off. We have no chance with a straight shot, but what if we fire straight up into the air and try to land right on the platform? This requires a perfect shot, not just to have the right amount of distance, but also to avoid bonking on the inconveniently placed invisible wall. It's really hard to aim so far away from your target. I resorted to moving the cannon as far up as possible, then counting every single tap on the D-pad to move it down. Several concussions later, I was able to make the perfect shot and bring our total up to 71. But where do we go from here? Using a heaven portal to enter courses would be incredibly difficult, and I didn't feel like I stood much chance in any of the courses I couldn't enter, especially since Tick-Tock Clock and Tiny Huge Island would require another heaven portal to enter every single time. But if I could use a heaven portal to enter those courses, why can't I use a heaven portal to enter the Wario painting from above? It will be very difficult because I need to touch the invisible warp inside the painting from above, but it will be possible. For this, at the request of someone who watched this live, I decided to use a save state to save time. I livestreamed this whole run on Twitch, by the way. It would have been entirely possible to do this without it, but it likely saved me hours of time I would have spent repeatedly kicking this one glitchy corner and falling to my death looking for Wario's invisible sweet spot. Do you guys still feel like this is legit? I'd like to hear how you guys feel about it. I recorded this footage quite a while ago. I feel like if I did this now, I wouldn't have used a save state. Anyway, after a lot of tries, I managed to hit the precise spot I needed to fall right into Chief Chili Challenge. This course isn't painless to navigate jumpless, but getting into it was infinitely harder than getting through it, I can tell you that much. Most of the platforming here can be solved with good kickflips and being very cautious on the ice. There is another pond of inescapable icy death water, but I avoided it completely by sheer luck without even realizing the danger I was in. These moving ice platforms were tricky to navigate, but all you need is a little good timing. Chief Chili himself, likely very confused that I got here, couldn't pose much of a threat since all we have to do is punch him off the edge of the platform 3 times. And now we have officially unlocked Wario without unlocking Luigi first. He may not be able to jump. I mean, look at him, does he look like he's jumped recently? But he should open up a few more stars to us. First, we can grab the Jetstream star in Jolly Roger Bay. This one was slightly more complicated than you'd expect. Metal Wario can't slide kick or dive underwater, and will be pushed away from the star if we try to wait underneath it, so we'll have to improvise. Even though underwater momentum physics will fight us pretty hard, it is possible to have Metal Wario land right on top of the star to get it that way. Not too hard once I adapted to the underwater control. Next up is Cool Cool Mountain, where we can finally use Wario's incredible weight to shatter the ice and open up the Switch Star. Making it in time requires some risky maneuvers, but it's far from impossible. Big Boo's Haunt has a star switch hidden underneath black bricks, which Wario can break. The timer for this one is a lot more strict, but Wario can still make it with only a second to spare. Next, we can backtrack to Shifting Sandland for another star switch blocked by black bricks. Easy to get in time if you just use the teleporter. Getting that also opens up the last star of Shifting Sandland, which requires us to get silver stars inside the pyramid. Getting up the pyramid's as tricky as ever, but we don't have any problems grabbing them once we do. There's even something opened up in Dire Dire Docks. A new star switch was added, once again requiring Wario to break black bricks and beat an easy timer. You'd think we could get the Jetstream star in this course as well, but I couldn't get Wario over to the power-up block. It's blocked by these metal fences we can't get on top of, and I couldn't find any way around them. I'm definitely not climbing this brick staircase with a super tight time limit using Wario, that's for sure. If only he knew how to jump. Okay, we're up to 77 stars and just about out of options. What else can we do? What other stars are even available? Here's one I bet you guys forgot, and that I forgot about too until now. In this remake, rabbits show up sometimes, handing out keys to unlock minigames when you catch them. But very rarely, in place of a rabbit you've already caught, you'll find a glowing white rabbit instead that doesn't have a key. Cheapskate. Instead, the game tells you how many white rabbits you have left to catch. It took a little time, and a little research on what makes them spawn, but I was able to catch all 8 and get a special key. This opens the white carpet door in the character select area, which doesn't lead to our boy Waluigi, but it does lead to a secret star. I would have preferred Waluigi, but a star is a star. Alright, 78 stars. Only 2 more. The best option left was Wing Mario over the rainbow. I can get here easily with a heaven portal, and there's 2 stars I can get here. Simple, right? By this point, I've practiced enough with this glitch that it took me a lot less than 2 hours to hit my mark. Now that we're inside though, what are we supposed to do? We can't make it to any of the platforms with just a rollout flip, and we can't make use of the wing cap without a cannon to help us. Thankfully, the solution is very simple. We just need to enter the level as Yoshi, hit the power-up block to make a flower appear, and then use the Mario cap to grab it as Mario and float over to this platform. Normally that block only spawns feathers for Mario, but it still spawns flowers for everyone else. Balloon Mario saves the day once again. We really should be thankful for his presence. Now that we're here, we can use this Wario cap and break this black brick for an easy star. Just one left. With only one left, I tried to grab the red coins, but I ended up bonking and getting thrown down from heaven. I started my ritual of kicking the glitchy corner, hoping to get the right timing to try again, when I remembered one star I completely forgot about this whole time. The other cap stages are still in this remake. We can't get into Vanish Cap under the moat because we can't pound these pillars, but I completely forgot about the Metal Cap course, behind the waterfall. Hidden within Hazy Mazy Cavey, this place has 2 stars. One that we can't get because we need to float upwards with Balloon Mario, and the original one that just requires the red coins. With Wario's metal power, we can grab the underwater coins, and the final star we need for the big 8-0. That is officially an optional challenge completed. I don't think we're going to find an optional challenge to top that one for a very long time. With the required 80 stars, we can head up the endless stairs the normal way to confront Bowser. He's the one who redesigned that igloo to be filled with inescapable deadly water. He's the one who made those nearly impossible stairs in Big Boo's haunt that haunted me for so long. And worst of all, he's the one who moved that Wario painting up by 1 centimeter so we couldn't flip inside. I think it's time to give him the rest of our complaints, isn't it? Of course he won't make it so easy. He knows our weaknesses front to back by this point. The first part of the stage isn't so bad. In fact, we can even get this timer star, bringing our total up to 81. Nice. Not long after that though is when we hit a wall. This wall to be exact, which is too high to climb with no nearby objects to help, and we can't get up from this rotating elevator either. It doesn't take long to figure out that he's finally hit our true weakness. Vertical heights too high for our rollout flip with nothing to help us past. No objects, no weirdly climbable slopes, and no alternate paths. Have we really run into a truly impassable wall? Alright, you know the drill by now. There is something we can do. First, we need to throw Mario out the door. He's not gonna be of any use to us here. You know who will? Yoshi. Bowser knew that though, so you can't legitimately enter this level with anyone besides Mario. Good thing the top of the stairs is just a heaven portal away. This is why getting 80 stars was an optional objective, by the way. I could have done this as soon as I had 50 stars to my name. Along the way, I somehow ended up in Wet Dry World? Well, at least I found a way to get the highest water level jumpless. We do have to feel around to get into the Bowser opening, but it's nothing we're not familiar with. Once we're in, we have to abuse Yoshi's tongue to its fullest. The only objects in this part of the stage that could possibly be useful are Goombas, but we're gonna make them work like you've never seen before. This next part is the most difficult thing I had to do throughout this entire run, by far. And I'd like to give credit to the jumpless/B button challenge community because I never would have thought of this. You might already know that Goombas give you a small bounce when you land on them. It's not the kind of thing you'd think about in normal play, but you can imagine how useful that might be. But those Goombas are way too far away to actually be useful, right? That's where Yoshi comes in. He can eat a Goomba, spit it out, and then bounce on it afterwards. That's still not enough distance to get anywhere yet. We need to escort this Goomba all the way over to where it needs to be by repeatedly eating it and spitting it back out. It's gross, but necessary. It's also much easier said than done, because so many things can go wrong. Once you spit the Goomba out, it's incredibly fragile. If you touch it, it will immediately die. If it touches another enemy, it dies. If it's out of Yoshi's mouth for more than 3 seconds, sayonara. And if it's in Yoshi's mouth for too long, he'll turn it into an egg, and we can't use it anymore. Not to mention, if you spit it off the edge of the stage, it will never be seen again. With all this in mind, it's hard to even get it past this rotating platform. This amp keeps circling the platform, ready to hit the Goomba at the worst possible time, and we have gaps to cross too. Remember, we can't slide kick with the Goomba in our mouth. Trying to crouch will cause Yoshi to immediately swallow whatever's in his mouth. Unless it's fire. I guess even Yoshi has standards. After spitting the Goomba a ways further, we encounter this seesaw platform. Now I have to talk about a little more technical stuff. Don't worry, this is the last time. Most objects in this game have an activation radius. If you're not inside it, some parts of the object will deactivate. For platforms like this seesaw, their collision also deactivates. Because of that, if we try to spit the Goomba right onto it, the Goomba will fall through because we're not within the radius. The only way to solve this problem is to build up a Y charge, press a direction on the D-pad to start running, spit out the Goomba, and immediately slide kick to cross the gap and enter the activation radius before the Goomba falls through, while also changing your direction to make sure you don't touch the Goomba along the way. Can you believe that's even harder than it sounds? This was also when I started using save states for this stage. I built up a bunch of lives to try to do this legitimately, but I resorted to save states once I was out of lives. Honestly, I would have been able to get up to this point without them, but everything past this point? No way. Mostly because our Goomba escort is not over yet. If we can get the Goomba onto the rotating elevator platforms, we might be able to bounce off it and reach the higher ledge. Problem is, we have to get it onto the elevator platforms from this seesaw. Even with save states, this was an absolute nightmare to do. Every single thing about your execution must be perfect in every way. Your timing must be perfect. The seesaw's position must be perfect. Your position must be perfect. The rotating platform's position must also be perfect. You have to execute your slide kick and rollout flip perfectly to follow the Goomba, and a blue moon has to happen on Friday the 13th. Well, maybe not that last part. If you get a single thing wrong, you'll lose the Goomba, and if I wasn't using save states, I'd have to start this entire process over from the beginning. Needless to say, I lost track of how many tries this took me. Either the Goomba would have too much speed and escape from me, not enough speed so it didn't make it to the platforms, not enough height so it also didn't make it to the platforms, or I'd end up making a mistake with my inputs. But after literally hundreds of tries, I managed to go fast enough for the Goomba to reach the platforms and not fall through, but slow enough that I was able to swallow the Goomba again before it bounced out of my reach. Once you've gotten that far, you just have to spit it into the corner of the rotating platform and time your kickflip well enough to bounce up to the ledge. Honestly, I'm not sure what I did right. Several times I got up but couldn't grab the ledge because I was facing away. But this time, somehow, Yoshi changed direction in mid-air to grab the ledge. I don't even know how that works. All I know is I'm taking it. Once we finish our dinner date with our Goomba friend, we have a little breather. The next section doesn't pose any major problems for once. It's actually pretty peaceful until we make it up to this pole. I wasn't sure what I was gonna do, but turns out there is a way past this as well. When you release a pole with the R button, you get a little bit of the momentum you were climbing the pole with if you were still moving up when you let go. It's pretty tight, but a near-perfect pole release can get you up here safe and sound. I wonder if I could have gotten one of the volcano stars in Lethal Lava Lane with this technique. The next gap is really scary. You have to make it to the pole, then let go, and hope Yoshi successfully grabs the ledge. Yoshi's not good at grabbing moving ledges, but it does work eventually. Once you're past this one final set of elevator platforms, you have one final obstacle in your way. The final pipe is on top of this irritating set of ledges. You can get up onto the ledges, but grabbing the edge of the pipe doesn't seem possible. Good thing there are some convenient Goomba trampolines right here. We do have to spit them into the perfect spot and nail our timing, but we can bounce our way up to the final pipe that way and finally meet Bowser face to face. Bowser doesn't have any cruel tricks left to pull on us now that we're fighting him one-on-one. We made it past the most relentless gauntlet he could possibly throw at us, so the worst thing he can throw at us now is shockwaves that are mildly tricky to dodge. His fire breath's even nice enough to give us a Mario cap to fight him with. Compared to the stage we just went through, throwing Bowser around felt like pure stress relief. In no time at all, we give him our final thoughts on what he just put us through and send him packing for good. Then we grab this giant star that counts as 0 stars, Peach finally comes out of the window, and credits roll. This challenge is officially complete. And we even managed one of our optional objectives, although we couldn't find a way to free Luigi in the end. I guess King Boo's gonna have his way with Luigi forever. Alright, I had another outro written, but I just wanted to thank anyone who watched this far from the bottom of my heart. This is the longest video I've made after all, and it's been the most difficult challenge so far in terms of the actual challenge itself and the process of turning it into a video. Don't worry, I've got ideas for future videos and they'll definitely come out faster than this one. Maybe even another Undertale run inspired by a comment I received. My favorite part of the run was probably Wet Dry World and the different strategies I had to use for each star, but there were plenty of contenders for that spot. Someday I'll see if I can find a challenge that tops this one. Hopefully, with your guys' help, I'll manage it. If you actually watched this far, you're probably a fan, so I'll plug some stuff here. I have a Twitter that I haven't used for a while. It's a little dusty, but hey, I should try using it more often. And I also have a Discord server where I'm a little more active, and you can find links to both of those in the video description. Anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Kickflip into the cards to see more weird challenges like this, and throw Bowser into the subscribe button if you want to keep up with whatever weird things I end up doing next. Until then, I'll see you guys next time on the Reptile Rumble.